This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of Two Bad Hombres is brought to you by The Athletic. Premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this podcast can save 30% off the first year of an annual subscription by going and visiting theathletic.com/DSP. All the hosts here on the network, we read The Athletic for all the in-depth features. This fall, they got writers covering Michigan and Michigan State college football. You don't want to miss out on great in-depth features. They're a great addition to the Detroit sports scene. Go check out theathletic.com/DSP to subscribe and save 30% off.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired.
And we are still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Geronimo, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing?
Vito, always enjoy podcast recording. Welcome to the weekend. How's everything going with you?
Going very well. Was at the Tigers game last Sunday, covering Alan Trammell's jersey retirement ceremony before the Tigers game with the White Sox last Sunday. That was very fun, very, very fun to take part in. And now we have to reflect upon something we didn't reflect upon yet, and that is our outing at Jimmy John's Field in Utica a couple of weekends ago, and how the heck it went. It went pretty darn well, in my opinion, Doc. For you, how did it go?
Everything went flawless. It was great to show appreciation. It was great for everybody to get together. We had a good time, had some drinks, watched some USPBL baseball, and it was just nice to show appreciation for everybody that has come and worked for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, also those that have helped us. So it was a great experience all the way around. There's just something about Jimmy John's Field that's really cozy. It's nice. I really enjoy going out there. And in the coming weeks, I think the weekend of September 7th through 9th, it's the championship weekend. So definitely go out there and check out USPBL action by visiting USPBL.com and definitely get out there for championship weekend. But all in all, for DSP Appreciation Day, it was fun. I'm glad you and your family came, got to share stories with Dom, your dad. And it was just nice, I think, when you work with a bunch of people to either have picnics or gatherings, just to show that, hey, you know, I appreciate what everybody's done. We've gone from a basement operation to having an office to having the ability to go out and cover games. And so to show you and your family appreciation, it's the least I could do. It was awesome. The food was good. Everybody found their way to the suite, and it was a good time, right?
Well, thank you for finally showing me appreciation. After all these years, since 2015, no love, no appreciation, no RESPECT. Shout out to Aretha Franklin, the late, great Aretha Franklin now. But I had a ton of fun. My parents really appreciated you doing all that for us, spending a pretty bill, a lot of money there, but it was all worth it, right? Being a part of that suite, the Cabana Suite at Jimmy John's Field in Utica, lovely Utica, Michigan. Lovely environment for watching baseball for a family. Family environment is great there. Fan-friendly environment definitely is present every single game at Jimmy John's Field, and I loved it. And you know what? My mom got the chance to talk to everybody again, my dad, my brother, like you said, but especially having my mom and having her meet Adam. Adam was loving. He was loving, Adam was, meeting my mom because of the fact that my mom's always on Facebook liking everything that we do, sharing everything that we do, even if I'm not even on the podcast. She's sharing and liking it. And she's been referred to, by the way, by somebody else, not me, by the way, here, but she's been referred to as a Facebook whore. Literally, by somebody that I know. Not me, not my words, okay? But somebody else's words have described her as a Facebook whore. Just going to leave it at that, Doc.
But all in all, we appreciate everybody that's shown us support. Always want to show appreciation to those that follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, because without everybody that's been messaging us, tweeting us, retweeting our videos, and coming on our shows, it wouldn't make it as fun. So what do we got on this week's Two Bad Hombres? We recap DSP Appreciation Weekend. What else is upcoming?
Recapping my softball win on Monday night of this past week, a championship game that my squad was victorious in. The Emperor Penguins, that is our team name. I don't know if I really love the team name, was never really fond of it, and never a fan of it to start off the season, but you know, it grew on me more and more because we started winning a lot, and we only lost one game all season long, and the team that we beat Monday night, we beat 3 out of 4 times this season. That was the second best team in the league all season long. The league was kind of watered down in comparison to last year, but our team was better. And you could say much better than last year, and we got the championship, hoisted the trophy this past Monday night. We drank some alcoholic beverages after the game at Art and Jake's. I love Art and Jake's in Troy. That's a place to check out, and maybe a place that can become a sponsor of this podcast network in the future. But yeah, it was great to see everybody at the game, to have a great performance. I won the most improved player. Most improved player. I won for my team, for the guys at least. At the plate, I increased my batting average from 217 to 568 this season. So I had a hell of a season compared to last year at the plate this year. And I made some plays, made a couple of errors, but rarely made errors. I can say that. I think I can say that. And it was a heck of a time, man, winning that championship, a championship that we thought we would win all season long. And we finally got it done, capturing the championship this past Monday night in Troy.
16-1. Wow, what made your team so successful?
Having good women playing, too, because in a co-ed league, you have subpar girls and women. You really do, to a large extent, with these teams that we play against in this league in Troy. But for our team, as a whole, a lot of strong women, good, capable women that can hit, can field the ball, make the routine plays, make stellar plays in the outfield. My cousin's wife, who I call my cousin-in-law, Corey Saab, made some great plays all season long. Danielle Holmes out there in the outfield. So we had 2 competent outfielders that were women, 2 men outfielders, too. My brother and Brendan Quigley, giving a shout out to him and his love for the Irish. He's a big Notre Dame slappy, so I got to give him some love one time at least on this podcast. He was my roommate back in Berkeley at one point. He made a ton of plays all season long, hit the heck out of the baseball, had the best batting average on the team. Nick Schmiegel, the pitcher all season long, did a hell of a job in the championship game. He had a heck of a season at the plate, made all of his plays, it seems like. So our team as a whole had a great season. And because of what? Well, because we had a strong team, males and females, that made plays and got hits when we needed to get the hits, Doc.
And what did you contribute to this squad?
Well, I was the most improved player. I don't know if you were listening to that, but hit 568, made some plays at shortstop, played shortstop all season long, and really shifted on and off with a buddy of mine, Mike Cornice. And he did well at short. I did well for the most part at short, made my plays for the most part, hit the ball more than last year. I only hit 217 last year, I believe it was. So I warranted most improved honors, and I'm happy to win that award. Now, nobody really voted on the award, but Nick Schmiegel gave it to me. He's the manager of the team, so I guess I was deserving of it. And based on my batting average increase, I guess you could argue big time that I was deserving of that honor this season, Doc.
Awesome stuff, Vito. Great stuff. It's fun to collaborate with people. It's fun to get out and mingle, play athletic events. It bonds people together. And especially after you guys won, you get to celebrate. And the question everybody's going to ask that's listening to this is, why is your league so terrible where, you guys dominated so much? I mean, 16-1, that means that there's definitely a competitive imbalance going on with your
talent
team.
Disparity, big time. But we were a good team. Not great, but good, and we looked better. We looked great because of the weakness of the rest of the league. Besides for the one team, we didn't lose anybody else besides for the one team. One loss all season long. And once again, we beat that team in the championship game. So, not that we got redemption, but it was good to see that team in the championship game and to beat that team because we knew that was the second best team all season long. The only team capable of beating us that did beat us. And it was great knocking that team off. That's the team we wanted to see in the championship game. We got the chance to play that team, and we beat the heck out of them, too. We actually mercied them after 6 innings.
And it's always good to get that revenge against a team that has your number, and good stuff for you. What was it like when you finally got the last out and you're the champions? You get to earn the championship trophy. What was it like?
I wanted to see the champagne. Where were the champagne bottles? They weren't on ice. They were nowhere to be found at the ballpark. But we went to Art and Jake's, had a heck of a time there. My mom and dad even came out and supported. I had aunts and uncles, cousins, relatives, family and friends of Nick Schmiegel. I mean, a ton of people, man. We packed the ballpark with our fans, had a huge support system, and they helped us win, too, that championship game this past Monday night.
So a lot of the players that played on your team are going to return again next year?
Should, unless they get cut by Nick Schmiegel. Nick Schmiegel has the final say in everybody returning to the roster next year, including myself, so I hope he doesn't cut me. I know he's thought about it. I might have mouthed off to him a few times, but I don't think he will be cutting me.
All right. So you have a situation in which you're playing softball. Any other sports that you want to maybe venture into? Leagues, basketball, football, anything, soccer, anything that you would venture into? Football?
I've played basketball. I could school you, I know, one-on-one easily. I could go right around you and finish at the hole. So I would love to do that maybe one time at the Macomb Rec Center, which is close to you, right? Close enough at least for you and I. Also, I might be doing a bowling league. I might be doing that with this softball league of mine because these players want to play in this bowling league now. Now, can I bowl? I don't know if I can do it that well. Now, I've done it, and I have a bowling ball. So it's kind of funny. I have a bowling ball, but really can't bowl that well. But we'll see what happens. We might do the bowling league this fall.
So now we've surveyed the sporting landscape. A lot of people are definitely reacting to what they saw with the Detroit Lions. They've said, oh my God, that third preseason game, they're definitely now a bunch of anxious Lions fans. But prior to the Lions kicking off their season, we got Michigan and Michigan State. Really interesting in that always when, a season's upcoming, everyone's got that anxiety, everyone's looking at camp. It's really positive all the way around. But then unfortunately, both squads, both Michigan and Michigan State, have suffered key injuries. You have Josiah Scott, the quality secondary player for Michigan State, a guy that was really counted on as being a solid defender. And then you heard the news earlier in the week regarding Tariq Black, wide receiver for the University of Michigan. He broke his other foot. Last year, he missed a significant portion of the season with a broken foot. And then obviously when you come back, a lot of people will say that you favor the other foot and you try and overcompensate. And in practice, last weekend, he hurt his other foot, and now he's going to be out for an extended period of time. So both teams are struggling with some significant injuries. But in your mind, going into the season, which team do you think will have a better season, Michigan or Michigan State? Because Michigan State, by the time you're hearing this, would have already played Utah State. This evening, tonight, under the lights, you're going to see Michigan versus Notre Dame, a huge contest. We'll talk about your thoughts on that. But which team do you think, Michigan, Michigan State, by the end of the season, which squad will finish on top? Who will have the better record? What do you think is going to happen this season in college football? Because those are the two big schools. We both support different schools. I'm a Michigan State Spartan supporter. You're a Michigan Wolverine supporter and follower. We both will be covering college football this season. What do you think?
Yeah, you're credentialed, aren't you, to cover a game at the Big House?
You know what it is?
Good for you, Doc.
I guess you could also add columnist now that I write columns and opinion pieces.
You're a columnist? Can you write?
You do not
I've seen some stuff. I know I've seen stuff. But is it really legitimate writing, and is it journalistically ethical and proper, what you've put out there?
Did you read my article regarding my opinions on the Detroit Lions and what they should do in 2018? That was a solid column.
I saw you posted something. I didn't read it.
Okay.
Like many of your things. It's stuff that you post on the Tumblr blog.
I'm a columnist and a reporter, general reporter.
You try to be. And see, I like how you put, I'm a follower of Michigan football, because I'm not a fan, truly. I'm an unbiased opinionist, okay, of Michigan and Michigan State football. And as a whole, looking at both squads, and, really quick, too, you didn't bring up EMU, CMU, Western, no love for any of them? God, only U of M and MSU?
They still play?
Man, they are. And, what was Utah State? That's a team?
I think
MSU gets to play Utah State to start off the season. What kind of game is that to start off the year, Doc?
One of the former coaches for Western rode the boat all the way to another job.
Yeah, he did. He wanted to get out of there. Anyways, so Michigan, I think a big blow to Tariq Black, because their wide receiving corps were already weak and not solid or strong. So that's a big blow to U of M. And how long will he be out with that right fractured foot? But before all that happened, I had picked U of M to win 10 games this year, to go 10-2 actually. Now, we'll see if that still does happen. Maybe 9-3 now. Don't want to take back my prediction of 10-2. But I'm going to say 10 wins. I'll still go with the 10 wins for Jim Harbaugh and U of M in Jim Harbaugh's fourth season in Ann Arbor.
With losses to State and Ohio State?
No, not to State. Come on. Easy victory for U of M this year, baby. Come on. That's not going to happen. I think he loses to Ohio State and to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be really good, too. Not a dark horse, even. They're going to be really, really good. Top 5 squad, I think, picked in the AP preseason poll. I think OSU was number 4, Wisconsin number 5. And then U of M, by the way, has to play Penn State as well. That's going to be tough as well. And then Notre Dame. How about this game against Notre Dame? I'm going to pick Michigan in a close game. And you asked me, the question actually was, I've been way off the track here, but MSU or U of M, who has a better season? Well, based on last year and what I saw from Michigan State and having LJ Scott and Lewerke returning at running back and quarterback respectively, you could say MSU. But I think with Michigan's defense, Shea Patterson, I think the O-line will be improved. I'm going to say, go out on a limb at least a little bit here based on the AP preseason poll, that U of M has a better season.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say there's a strong chance that based on when I looked at betting lines in Vegas as to how many wins each team will have, both teams kind of fell around 9 wins. And I think there's a strong chance both teams go 9-3 this year. I think it's going to be a competitive Big Ten. It's going to obviously go through Ohio State. When I look at what Michigan State can accomplish, obviously you look at it and you go, wow, youthful. They don't have that many seniors. They got a team that maybe even next year could do a lot of things. And so Michigan State, when you have Brian Lewerke and what he did last year, you want to see growth. You want to see him continue to command that offense. You have a senior running back. It's awesome to have LJ Scott back. The offensive line is going to be key. Obviously, Mark D'Antonio and that defense is going to show up. They're going to have a presence. They're going to be, a smash mouth defensive team. They're going to try and force turnovers. They're going to be in a lot of games. The thing that is concerning really with Michigan State is that offense. A lot of people are not confident in the Michigan State offensive coordinators. A lot of times they kind of are a little bit conservative. They don't open up the playbook, and they kind of utilize really a restricted running game. And you say to yourself, okay, you know what? In college football, you got to be a little bit more explosive. You got to throw the ball down the field. You got to kind of take some more chances. And sometimes the Michigan State offense in big games, they don't play as well as you would like. So we're hoping to see progression. We're hoping that this young team that we saw earn 10 wins last year can grow and continue to have success, because they got some big games on their schedule as well. And probably none bigger than, I think, October 20th, where Michigan rolls into East Lansing. That's going to be a huge game. Many people think they might both show up undefeated, and it'll be a game that will wreck one school season. Now, on the other side of the coin, that injury to Tariq Black, we had to check the report earlier that aired this Thursday on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and Rico and Aaron McMahon both touched on it. I think that, that injury is severe. It's not one where you just go, oh, my God, your biggest offensive weapon is gone. And it's like, okay, well, just next man up. Nico Collins, he's going to take over.
Yeah, Nico Collins, believe it or not, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I do like.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. That's a big loss. You're right, Doc.
But having Shea Patterson join the fold, I think, has given Michigan this sense of bravado, like, okay, this is our guy. And that's a lot of pressure on Shea Patterson. He's starting to talk a little bit to the media, and Jim Harbaugh is obviously heaping praise on Shea Patterson. We can open up our playbook. We can do great things and things like that. He's the guy, and they named him the starting quarterback a couple weeks ahead of the Notre Dame game. But I do think with the solid running game, with that defense, Michigan is going to be formidable. I do think they're going to take that next step, but everybody knows, everybody's pinpointing that Michigan has to go on the road and beat top teams. Going on the road versus Notre Dame tonight, it's going to be huge. Going on the road versus Michigan State, they're going to be a top 25 team, hopefully by the time that contest hits. Going on the road and playing Ohio State. Big games for Jim Harbaugh, and he's going to have to start answering some of these questions, because I think right now, going into the season, people still have a ton of questions regarding who is Jim Harbaugh, what's his program going to be about, and can he actually fulfill the huge promises that have been bestowed upon him because of his past success. Right now at Michigan, he just hasn't had the full resume yet. He hasn't had the resume victories. Now, he's had 10-win seasons. He's gone to bowl games. But on the other side of the coin, he's also had some questionable calls, obviously trouble with the snap. Last season, calling a bunch of passing plays in a monsoon versus Michigan State when everybody knew that that wasn't going to be effective with a quarterback that wasn't really all that effective. So really interesting stuff regarding how people perceive Jim Harbaugh and what he can accomplish at Michigan.
And really, will people start turning on Jim Harbaugh, too? If he loses his game tonight against Notre Dame on the road, against a ranked team in Notre Dame, do people, U of M faithful that love Jim Harbaugh, do they start turning on Harbaugh, Doc? What do you think?
Does he get one more year? That's the big question. If he doesn't have a successful season, let's say it's 3 losses to Michigan State, Wisconsin, Ohio State. It's 3 losses, and it's to those teams. Do people turn on him? I think he gets one more year with a lot of fans, but a lot more fans will be angry and messaging us that maybe it's time to seriously consider what should be done next if Jim Harbaugh is not the guy.
Les Miles, turn to him. He'll turn around the program. But all joking aside, I think Harbaugh has to win 10 games too, Doc. And if he doesn't, he loses some cachet with the Michigan faithful.
I want to ask you this before our break. In the second half of the podcast, we'll talk about some of the individuals that have been caught up in the Me Too situation have been now starting to seek forgiveness and ask for the opportunity to continue their craft. Louis C.K. actually did some stand-up comedy, and you definitely had some thoughts regarding some people from the Me Too movement. What should happen next to those that have been caught up in those situations? So we'll touch on that in the second half. I want to ask you, what did you think of Skip Bayless's thoughts? Was it pure clickbait, or do you believe in what he's saying because of the fact that he has now highlighted some of Jim Harbaugh's strengths? He says that in terms of coaching, he definitely expresses that Alabama has all this fruitful talent, that it's not that difficult to coach guys that are so talented with 5 stars, that in terms of pure coaching, Jim Harbaugh is a better coach than Nick Saban. And that floored everybody because of the fact that the results have been way in the side of Nick Saban. But what do you think? Did he say it for pure clickbait, or do you think he believes it? Is Jim Harbaugh a better football coach than Nick Saban?
Ludicrous to say that. He was shilling, if you want to use that word, if that is a word, like to the fullest and highest magnitude. It's all clickbait. It's meant for views to get him attention. And guess what? I don't even know if he really believes it. It's part of his shtick. It's part of his act. It's what Skip Bayless does for a living, making like $5 or $6 million a year just to get attention for himself and to gain more followers and to get people talking about him. I think it was purely that. I don't think he even believes that Jim Harbaugh is a better coach than Nick Saban. And if he really believes that, well, he's lost his mind. He's got to take some crazy pills. He needs them really quick, too, because he has totally lost his mind if he really, really believes that, Doc.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you hear it, you're like, what? Are you kidding me? He said it. But sometimes in media, you have to say things to get attention, but you also have to maintain your credibility. I think that's more important, is that when you say something like that, he definitely argued his point in talking about the fact that Jim Harbaugh has to take lesser talent and try and build them up and get 10 wins and things like that, especially in the Big Ten. But
he's at Michigan now. Now, at Stanford, you could say that about Jim Harbaugh. At Michigan, no.
But Nick Saban can flat out coach. He's a defensive wizard. He's obviously knows when to push the right buttons, when to take out quarterbacks at the right time, when to put in the right substitutions, how to put together staffs, how to oversee things. Just because you have talent. I mean, other schools have big talent. Michigan State had talent, and Nick Saban's team just came in there and destroyed Michigan State. Obviously because they were more prepared, they were ready to go, they performed at the right time. Are you kidding me? You're saying Nick Saban can't coach? You recall back in the day before Michigan State got rolling with Mark D'Antonio, Nick Saban had a team that had 10 wins at Michigan State when it wasn't that popular, when it wasn't that often. He had a team, obviously, Bobby Williams got the final win, I think the 10th win or 11th win of that season. So he put together good squads. He understood how to recruit, and he can coach football. He can flat out understand scenarios. And if you think Nick Saban can't coach, get the hell out of here. Come on, it wasn't serious.
Well, then, who really even listens to Skip Bayless and takes him at his word?
Well, unfortunately, he's got a big following, so you see his stuff. Yep. All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back. I want to get your sense on how much forgiveness you have for Louis C.K. and those that have been part of the Me Too situation and those that have made past mistakes. Stay with us. You're listening to Two Bad Hombres on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And Doc, as you know, one of our fine partners at the DSP Network is Top Cat Sales. And if you're looking for apparel for your football team or your business, then look no further than Top Cat Team Sales specifically. Through founder John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat has developed a tradition of selling and distributing apparel with the highest quality and the very best service, with brands like Adidas. So get your team or get your business all in with Top Cat today by calling 248-246-1054. Once again, the number for Top Cat Team Sales is 248-246-1054. And remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter at Team Top Cat.
Thanks, everybody, for finding this podcast and the others on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Without your support, we wouldn't have been able to grow this network. Free and easy way to support us, to help us stay in the Sterling Heights office, keep these microphones hot, and keep the lights on. Just visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate all the support. So, Vito, you found out that Louis C.K. performed a comedy bit. He kind of made his way back. He kind of is a guy that has been embroiled in, obviously, the controversy with the whole Me Too movement. The things that he was partaking in, the way in which he treated women was pretty disgusting, pretty disturbing on the highest levels. But the question needs to be asked, and I think you brought it up because people are wondering now, okay, let's say, for example, you're one of these individuals that got caught up in this, and you make that mistake, and you're acting in a way that's unbecoming of a human. You're acting inappropriately. You're sexist, or you're acting, chauvinistically, or you're trying to take advantage of women. What happens in the year or two after something like that happens? How much forgiveness should we give somebody? And I actually touched on that in a previous one-on-one special I did with the daughter of Igor Larionov. Her name is Alyanka Larionov. And all the one-on-one specials you can look back on the archives and find. But I had asked her, if you were to have, been approached by Charlie Rose, and he came to you and he said, hey, I'm now reformed, I've been in therapy, I'm not the same guy as I was in the past, would you take a job with somebody like that who has been accused of acting inappropriately? And that was a question that she found interesting because it leads to the question, how much forgiveness do we give those that have been accused of these things? What level of acceptance back in society should we give the likes of a Louis C.K.? And it's a very interesting topic to talk about.
I think you never forgive the person, though, because of sexual misconduct. When you're committing such an act of sexual misconduct, sexual harassment towards a woman or a man, you're a pitiful person. You have low character, right? and you don't care about yourself, when you're treating somebody that poor, you don't care about yourself either. So I wouldn't ever forgive him. Should he have the chance to ever perform again like he did recently in New York? Well, yeah, I think he has a right to perform again, to get a second chance in that way, but can we still think that he's a pitiful person? Yes. And do we have to forgive him? No, I wouldn't forgive him for what he did, because it did happen. He's admitted to it. It did happen, so I'm not going to forgive him. But can he act again, perform a comedy stand-up act? Yeah, why not? Now, the thing I have a problem with this situation that happened with Louis C.K. performing, Doc, is that it was by surprise. Nobody knew about him coming to perform. So I think you better receive notification of this guy coming to perform too.
Obviously.
If you don't, because when you do know that the guy is coming in, well, you have the choice then, right, to not show up or to show up. I think people deserve the right to make the choice of showing up or not showing up. Now, with this case here specifically, nobody had the shot of making their own decision about whether or not they wanted to see him perform a comedy stand-up act after everything came out through this Me Too movement, the allegations of his sexual misconduct. And now, once again, he's admitted such, so people deserve the right to make the decision themselves of whether or not they go and support this guy.
Obviously, 100% I agree. One factor that definitely is something to debate, and I respect your opinion that forgiving somebody is hard, but as a society, I think the best way to handle it is to forgive and accept. Now, that doesn't mean
not to accept. I wouldn't accept what he did.
No.
Maybe you forgive.
No, meaning that there's going to be some level of acceptance that he's going to be coming back into society, that he has to earn a living, he's got to take care of himself if he has done some work to rehabilitate himself. Because here's the thing, he's not in jail. He has to support his family. He has to eat. He has to, make a living. Now, obviously, if he doesn't do any work, he's not in therapy, if he doesn't show sincere apologies, if he's not apologetic, if he's not authentic, obviously you don't forgive and accept. But in order to move forward, I would say that you have to also acknowledge that people are flawed and that they become mentally ill and they become unstable. Maybe, there were some things that we don't know. Maybe Louis C.K. was a victim of sexual abuse. Maybe he had parents that told him, look, this is how you treat women, or he had friends that influenced him negatively to treat women in a disrespectful manner. And it's easy for us to sit back here and say, oh, well, you should have acted like this and you should have acted like that. But until you get that taste of power, until you get $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 million in your bank account, and women treat you differently, then it just warps your mind a little bit. Now, it's not to excuse his behavior. It's abhorrent. It's terrible. You never act that way. But what I'm saying is, moving forward, you want to really ask yourself, how do we reintroduce these people back into society, especially if they've been rehabilitated? Let's say he comes out and says, I've been in therapy the last 2 years. I'm really apologetic. I've done the work, and I feel like I'm ready to come back. But obviously, you should tell people. That's not right to just show up. But I do think that the best path to, view these kind of people is to forgive, accept, move forward if they've done the work, if they have truly rehabilitated. Or let's say he gets found guilty of a crime. Let's say him or anybody else gets sentenced to a crime and it's like 6 years. Well, 6.5 years goes by, the person's back in society. How do you treat them? Well, if they did the work in jail, if they've been a good citizen in jail, if they've grown, if they ask for forgiveness, if they're doing work, how do you treat someone like that? And that's the number one question I talk to when people in therapy sessions is, how do you deal with the mistakes of the past, and to what degree, especially when you look at what the person did? Obviously, murderers, rapists, it's very hard to do that, especially with how the judicial system works. People can get maybe 4 years for something abhorrent. So it's definitely debatable and worthwhile to talk about how much acceptance back into society does someone get or deserve based on, what they've done to kind of repent for their actions.
Well, I say you don't ever forgive and forget. I don't want to forget what he did because it happened. It was egregious. It was abhorrent.
And say forgive and accept, meaning that when you accept someone, you say, this guy is flawed, this guy has done these things, but he's now this version of himself, meaning that, okay, I accept now that you're this version of Louis C.K. I never want to hear this again. And if it happens again, after you've done this work, forget it, we're done.
Now, you were saying in prison. Could somebody rehabilitate themselves in prison, serving 6.5 years of a sentence, let's say? But also, couldn't they put on a fake smile and fake persona to get out of jail early? People do that, too, and fool everybody.
Yep.
So rehabilitation, I think, is tough to come by, and I think it's a lifelong process. So I think even after 6 years, which is a lengthy amount of time, right? It really is. I don't know if you're really fully rehabilitated and a different human being all of a sudden, even after 6 long years of serving time in prison for something that you did.
One final question. Would you ever buy a Louis C.K. comedy ticket?
No, and I did like him. I probably wouldn't because I'm cheap anyways. I'm not going to spend the money for it.
Okay, so Vito's no longer a fan of Louis C.K. He will no longer partake in that form of comedy. And unfortunately for Louis C.K., he lost a fan. And
Good. You think
that's
he cares? I mean,
realistic.
but actually, he has to care now because I don't think he's getting a lot of people to show up for his acts.
Exactly. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he showed up unannounced. Interesting conversation, Vito. Thank you for the half hour. I know it's a shortened week, but we had a lot to get to. And obviously some weeks, we can take it a little bit easier ahead of some big weeks. And now when college football starts, when some news happens, we will definitely go more in depth. But a nice short show is always good. A nice quick 30 minutes. Thank you so much for your time.
30 minutes in and out. Adios, John.